Hey everyone, this is Kevin, your entrepreneur, and we're going to be taking a break from Uber today to discuss a couple stories that are going to give you a little bit of a sneak preview, if you will, into what entrepreneur in 2018 is going to look like as we branch this channel outside of just Uber, Lyft, and ride sharing and into more technology-based news stories with a heavy emphasis still on the gig economy. And this is a good way to start the slowly phasing into the new entrepreneur, if you will, because honestly, this is something that probably affects a lot of people and we didn't even realize there was a problem. But here's a question first. Do any of you have iPhones? I'm sure a lot of you watching do. I don't. I have Android, and before that I actually had a Windows phone, which, you know, I was kind of hoping against all hope that it would get a little popular, but it never did. And you might be noticing, though, if you have an older iPhone, that the phone isn't working as well. It's not running smoothly. And for a lot of people, they just assume that maybe the apps were being updated out of the old models and only working with the new models. And I would assume that too, except Apple today has announced that for as much as a year, they have purposefully been throttling the performance of old iPhones. Now, why did they do this? Well, they said it was for performance issues and to prevent unexpected crashes from the constant updates. But here's the thing. Apple is ginormous. Like, they are pretty much what Microsoft used to be. Some people might not remember this, but Microsoft used to be so big that they could actually put in web browsers throttling technology to make it so that if you went to competitors' websites and stuff or tried using competitors' products, they wouldn't work as efficiently. Now, that resulted in some antitrust lawsuits, and Apple is not going to be heading for that anytime soon because they're throttling their own devices. That's hardly anti-competitive. But here's the thing. Apple has a very unique fan base, I would say. A unique fan base that's almost religious in the sense that they, line up in front of a store to get the newest phone, and they are willing to pay pretty much whatever price they want to pay. I have known people who, when they wanted an Apple product, they simply would go on Craigslist because if there was a new product launching in a couple months, there would be Apple fanboys who had bought a practically brand new device, was trying to get rid of it just so they could have the new device. That's how rabid their fan base is. But that fan base has its limits, and personal opinion, of course, no, this cannot be proven, but the sales for the iPhone 8 and the 10, especially the 8, but also the 10, have been a little disappointing, to be perfectly honest. And the iPhone 6 is actually still one of Apple's best-selling products right now. They're in a weird situation for the first time. The iPhone 6 is actually selling more than their new product. Now, some people will say, well, that's because the iPhone 10 is super expensive, and that might be true. But I think it's also partly because of the headphone jack. Apple brazenly took it away and said, nope, this is the way we're going to go, and people don't want to go that way. They want to use any headphones that they want to listen to music. They don't want to buy a proprietary system. For that matter, Google's Pixel 2, not doing as well as the Google phones that have a headphone jack. Now then, here's the thing. Apple has a fan base that is more than willing to continuously upgrade their items. For the first time in a long time, and I think it started showing like last year, believe it or not, that the fans were not as willing to just replace their old phones. There's only so many phones you can have, only so many improvements you can make to a phone. And now we have this information that Apple has been deliberately throttling the performance, making the phones perform poorer when they don't need to perform poorer. Basically, Apple is taking the hardcore fans who buy their products and screwing with them if they don't have their new phone. So, for those of you who, and I have gotten a random email over the last year, and now it kind of makes sense where people said, hey, the Uber app isn't working on the phone anymore. And I just assumed it was because, they updated the app to the point where it wasn't working very well on the old devices. Now I'm wondering if that's actually the case. I think the reason your Uber app, your Lyft app, your Postmates, your Pokemon Go, whatever it is that you want to play with on your iPhone 5, 4, whatever, I think it's not working very well because Apple has deliberately made it so that they don't run well. And they have throttled the phones. And that is not anti-business. It's not antitrust. It is anti-consumer, though. It is annoying and offensive that a company who does not need to resort to tactics to get their fan base to buy new phones is resorting to such tactics to get them to buy new phones. That, I think, is terrible. And it's especially annoying because if you're in the gig economy workplace, you might not always have the money for the newest phone, but you do depend on your phone so that you can make money. And essentially now, from this point on, if you ever buy an Apple product, you have to be concerned and maybe even assume that after a couple of years, that phone will not be very effective. Not because it's not a good phone, not because it's not working. If anything, Apple products have a reputation for running for a very, very long time, but not their phones now, because they have deliberately hindered the phones to probably convince you to buy a new phone. That is, well, what do you folks think about that? I would love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy the videos I make, consider becoming a Patreon member for as little as $1 a month. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.